This is the Adventure Dome at Circus Circus in 30 seconds. The Canyon Blaster Loop-de-Loops, a loco climbs and dives in.
Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg here in Las Vegas. Hank, there's lots of storms around the country, but here in Vegas, we got pretty good weather. It's cooled off a little bit. We got news just a couple minutes ago that there's 2 games in the NFL that may be postponed. We're not sure yet. That would be the Chargers at Denver and the Tampa Bay at the Giants on Monday night due to COVID tests being positive. Don't know for sure, but that's just what's out there right now.
Well, you know, it's interesting. So far, and they're 7 weeks through the season, everything's on schedule. There have been some changes, but they've gotten all the games in that were scheduled to get in the first 7 weeks.
It's pretty good. A lot of changes, a lot of hard work to get that done. There's no question it's hard. The NBA did a good job. The NHL did a good job. NFL's doing pretty well. Baseball did pretty well.
Yeah, except for cash.
Yeah, well, that cost me a lot of money. I may have lost anyway, but I thought I don't know. I know the analytics.
Yeah, well, you don't take your number one pitcher out after he gives up a single in the 6th inning.
I agree.
You just don't.
I agree.
The guy was pitching great, and I'll tell you something. I think the players. I have a feeling he's lost the players.
Well, I would agree. You're on that team. You don't always get to the World Series. You don't always have a chance to win the World Series, and there you are. You're right there. You have a good chance, and then he pulls this bonehead move. I mean, that was ridiculous. I turned the TV off when he did it. When he did it, I just said, "Screw this. This is crazy." And then he goes to
they immediately scored 2 runs on the guy he brought in.
And the guy that he brought in had given up a run in each game in the previous 6 games, and he wasn't even that sharp. It was terrible. I mean, they might have lost the game anyway. We don't know that, but that was a terrible move. Terrible move. But the
guy was really mowing him down.
Oh, man!
He gave up 1 single. It wasn't that big a deal.
6 innings. He had 9 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me take that guy out. See, you and I come from a time when the Gibsons and the people like that would go out there and mow people down for 9, 10 innings, and now they got all this analytics stuff, and unbelievable. There's a time and place for it, but you just can't be controlled by it like a robot. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Your opinion too. But what do we got this week in football?
There's a game tonight, Atlanta and Carolina, and Carolina has been playing without their star running back out for a few weeks, but Davis has done pretty well in his place, and the quarterback. What concerns me about Carolina is they lost their left tackle last week. That's never a good thing.
No, it isn't.
But Atlanta just keeps finding different ways to lose a game. It's amazing. Although Ryan last week against Detroit threw for over 300 yards, but it's not so much the fact that Gurley scored when he shouldn't have, and they should have gotten lined up for a field goal. But the fact that there was a minute 4 left in the game, and Detroit took it right down the field and won. So I just couldn't support Atlanta in any game, although they have a new coach. But last week, he was 23 out of 28 for 248 yards. And he had a pretty good game. And he's playing very well. And I think Carolina right now is well coached, and Their defense isn't all that bad. I like them against Atlanta a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I was looking at the under, and there has been some bad weather going through there, and of course we got hurricanes and stuff like that. But whether that'll affect the game or not is. But I still like. I think Carolina's going to try to control the ball, long drives. You might see some Davis on the ground, and I mean we know that Atlanta is. They got a good passing attack, and they can put up a lot of yards and at times some points. But I'm looking for this to be a little bit more conservative. Numbers up in the 50, 51 and a half. It's a big number. I'm leaning under in that game.
Atlanta, by the way, is 30th in defense. So.
Yep. Got.
By the way, the weather is blowing through there. Randy Moss was on NFL Channel this morning, and Randy's a good reporter, and it was raining there some, he said, and the wind was 20 miles an hour, which isn't bad, and he said it's all supposed to blow through there by the time they play the game. So, but the field condition is, they thought the field would be wet, which is why they're holding out, why Carolina is holding out the back for another week, not because of the rain.
Right. There is a lot of wind for Sunday that's predicted. Places like Buffalo and Green Bay and Cincinnati and Cleveland, they're looking at some wind there. So we are getting in that time of the year. We don't see it too much here in Vegas, but on the East Coast, those cities do get some bad weather, cold weather, and wind conditions. It's normal for that to happen. So those things that people out there, the bettors, like you look at the Raiders-Browns game, has gone from 55.5 down to 51. I mean, they're big drops. I see drops in all these numbers. In New England, Buffalo, 46 to 41.
New England's Buffalo game is dropping because neither team has any offense.
That would make a difference, wouldn't it? Yeah. Who's gonna be the quarterback for the Patriots?
They're going to give Cam one more shot.
And the Bills, they started off strong, but their offense has fallen off, and
Allen is not playing well, and they don't have. They got a lot of problems. Buffalo, their defense is no good, and it's just two bad teams right now. The most interesting game in that division right now is Miami against the Rams, because Tua is going to play quarterback for Miami, and it's an interesting first start for him against a Rams team whose defense is pretty good. We'll see how he does.
Yeah, it's going to be. You're going up against Aaron Donald, that pass rush, but Tua's got a lot of talent. He's a great athlete. Hopefully, those injuries are behind him, and we're not going to see any more of that. But that is a concern with him. Are you surprised that the Dallas-Philadelphia game is still the primetime game? It's such a mess of a game to put on Sunday afternoon.
I don't know why it still is. It's Sunday afternoon.
It's Sunday It's the 5:30 game for us.
I thought Pittsburgh and Baltimore was the primetime game.
Well, not according to the screen right now. It's still Philadelphia, Dallas. They haven't flexed out of it. Which is surprising.
I got Pittsburgh, Baltimore as the hold on.
I got that at 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's the primetime game.
What? Pittsburgh, Baltimore has been flexed to the 5:30 time?
Well, I got the schedule, the printout of the schedule that was released, and they list Pittsburgh, Baltimore as a 10 p.m. start on the East Coast.
10 p.m.
Wait a second.
No, that would be 7 o'clock here. That couldn't be.
Yeah.
Unless they're going with 2 games.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Don Best screen, and they still have it. Dallas, Philadelphia at 5:20. Pittsburgh,
I don't think so.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore at 10 o'clock in the morning, our time, 1 Eastern.
I got Dallas, Philadelphia at 5:20 our time.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I got. That's the late Sunday night game. Yeah.
I don't think so. I got to find out.
That's
What NBC's doing.
That's a pretty bad game to be putting up on television at that, with the way Dallas has played. Well,
yeah.
Both of them. I mean, neither one of them's any
Well,
good.
yeah. I don't think that's right.
Well, I hope it's not. But we got Seattle picked up a defensive player. They did not look.
He can't play this week.
No? Okay.
He has to pass the
COVID test?
tests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got some interesting games. Like you said, the Miami game against the Rams, that's interesting. We've got a big number on the Chiefs and the Jets. 19.5 right now. It was 20. That's a...
There's something interesting about the Chiefs. And they've added another running back, of course. But I think they've had a total change of offensive philosophy. And, it happened. It showed up last week against Denver. They are no longer throwing the ball very much. Last week, for example, they have Bell now, and he'll play a little bit. But Mahomes only threw the ball 23 times last week. And if you go back the week before, he's not throwing the ball very much anymore. But they've got Edwards, and they've got they've got Bell now, and they've got
Hilaire,
and they're a running team now. And they use Mahomes more. They're not a pass-first offense anymore. He has totally changed their offensive philosophy. And I think that's, against the Jets, it doesn't matter what you do. Donald last week was 12 for 23 with 2 picks, threw for 120 yards. They don't have a running game at all. And, their defense outscores their offense. So, I mean, that's, 19 is what that's like a college game. Las Vegas has a game I like this week. I think that Las Vegas will outcoach Cleveland. Without Beckham, I think in no Chubb, I think Cleveland's going to have a little bit of a tough time. I know Hunt is a good running back, but Mayfield, who had a decent game, Mayfield had a big game last week.
He did.
I think he was 22 out of 23 at one point, and the only one he missed was when he spiked the ball. But Cincinnati gave him a real, Burrow really gave him a hard time. And I think Carr will have a big game against them. Las Vegas, didn't do well against the best defense in the league. Now they're going up against a team that doesn't have any defense. And I think that Gruden is going to have a good coaching game. And Abrams is, they need him in the secondary. I think he's going to play, which helps them a little bit. I know that Las Vegas doesn't have much of a run defense, but I think that this will be a high-scoring game, and I think Las Vegas is Gruden will find a way to pull it out. I like them in this spot, getting points.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know that the total, Hank, has dropped from 55.5 to 51. I know they're expecting wind, but I think both teams are going to try to run the ball pretty well.
Well, the Raiders are going to throw the ball a lot. They don't. Carr has a good short passing game, and I don't think the weather is going to stop him from throwing the ball. He's got a strong arm.
He does. Yes, he does. Minnesota and the Packers have a big game. The Packers are 7-point favorite. Minnesota has looked really, really bad. 1 win on the season, 1-5 on the season. Zimmer is, I don't know, they gave him a big contract, but between the coach and the quarterback, they're not doing very well. And the Packers bounced back last week with a big win.
Well, this is a rematch, I think, of the opening week of the season where the Packers, it was a high-scoring game, if you recall. But the Packers are 5-1, as you said, against a 1-5 team. Cook is questionable, Dalvin Cook. And Cousins, you don't know what he's going to do from week to week. They don't have Hunter either, so they're hurting in the running game. And here's an interesting trend for you. Going outdoors, Minnesota's 0-16-1 against teams with a winning record.
Wow. Oh, shit. Excuse my French. Wow. That's a hell of a stat.
Now, Green Bay's weakness on defense is they give up 5 yards per carry against the run. But Minnesota's hurting in the running game, and they've got problems in their offensive line. And they're 8-0 in their division under this coach they have now.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers can be absolutely magical. He doesn't have the amount of weapons that a lot of people think.
He's got Devontae Adams. I don't agree with that. They've got Devontae Adams. Last week he caught 13 passes for 196 yards, and he's got a couple other guys that he can throw to besides him, and he's got Williams out of the backfield who can run the ball. I know they don't have Jones. That's a guy they miss, but he can spread the ball around too. He's got some good receivers.
How did the Titans bounce back off that game? And they missed that field goal at the end that possibly.
I think Pittsburgh is worse off than the Titans.
Really?
The Titans came through. Well, Pittsburgh came out of that game with a bunch of injuries in their offensive line. But Tennessee, first of all, Tennessee is going up against a team whose defense ranks about last. And, they got Pittsburgh came out of the game with injuries. Let's see, where are they? Pittsburgh is 11-2 as a dog with Tomlin, but they don't have Bush, and now they've lost the top cornerback, and they've lost a couple of guys in their offensive line who went out, and so Pittsburgh came out of that game the worst of it, in what was a tough game in the second half for them. And I think they felt the result of their injuries in the second half, where Tennessee almost caught them and almost won the game. Tennessee came out of the game fine, and they're playing against Cincinnati this week. And Cincinnati, although Mayfield had the big game last week, they gave up all that yardage to Burrow, who was 34 out of 37 against them. And Tennessee, Henry is going to have a huge game against Cincinnati in their run defense. They have no pass defense either. And Mixon is out for them. They don't have a pass defense.
and I think Tennessee has a very good passing game right now. And last week he was 18 for 30 with no picks. And Brown is a big-time threat in the passing game. So I think Tennessee has a big edge.
They certainly do, and they're probably going to bounce back with a pretty big effort too.
That was a tough game, tough loss for him. I mean,
it sure was.
To lose on, I mean, the kicker has now missed 6 field goals inside 50 yards.
Whoa. That's. I guess we're not going to be depending on him going forward too much. That's rough. The Bears and the Saints. Breeze moved the ball last week. He was 12 out of 14 on third down, which is a hell of a statistic, and that was against the Panthers. And now he goes up against the Bears in Chicago.
Well, I think Foles should have been replaced last week. It's time to give up on Foles. I think Brian Greasy made a great comment about him, about his mechanics. He does not step up when he throws his passes, and so he's always short. And the Bears' offensive line's missing 3 guys. They have no running game whatsoever, and it's time to go to Trubisky, in my opinion. They've got, on the other hand, Breeze last week, even without Thomas and without Sanders, he had 8 different receivers. He was spreading the ball around. At one point in the third quarter, by the way, they didn't have to punt. He was 12 out of 14 on third downs.
Yeah, he was extremely efficient. I mean, it was a close game, and Carolina covered the spread, but Brees was extremely efficient.
Well, their defense has failed them. They've been giving up 30 points a game. Now they're playing a team that has no offense.
Right.
It's a big mismatch, I think. And by the way, on the road, they're 8-1 against the spread.
How does Tennessee do on the road? I was wondering if you had any stats on that.
Tennessee, they've won. They're +9 in turnovers, and they're 5-1. And 2 of their games they won. I think 2 or 3 of their games they won were on the road.
We got some interesting matchups like that. You got a 5-1 Tennessee against a 1-5 Bengals team. You got a 6-1 Chief against an 0-7 Jets. This is the league of the haves and the have-nots this year. Interesting.
Tennessee has had some issues, I guess, with their kicking game.
Yeah. Any other games that stand out that you wanted to discuss? Any injuries or coaching?
I like Indiana against Detroit. Last week, Rivers had a real good game, his best game of the year. He's got Hilton and Pascal to throw the ball to. They're playing pretty decently right now. They're on the top 5 in 3 different defensive areas: scoring, rushing, and total defense. Leonard is back for them. That's big. And I think their defense will make the difference against Detroit. So I like them a little bit. And let's see. I think the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game is the best game of the week.
I agree with that. That's a big game.
I think Baltimore's defense is going to hold up. It's a tough number. I don't think it's a great game to bet.
That game opened 5.5. It's down to 3.5 or 4 now. Baltimore is coming off a bye, and if I remember right, they do pretty well off a bye. John Harbaugh.
Yep. They're 13-4 against the spread, Baltimore, overall. But I'll tell you something. They have not played. They have not dominated. Like they did not. He only completed 12 passes against Philadelphia. Philadelphia gave him a game. Jackson is not to be trusted, I don't think. And Pittsburgh's defense is, got very good pass rush, and they're gonna get after him. It'll be interesting. But Baltimore's defense is good, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think Pittsburgh is kind of banged up, and Baltimore's fresh.
Yeah, they are fresh. I mean, it's a division game, and we know that these two teams go at it pretty strong. It's usually very physical.
Yep.
So it should be a good week. Hopefully, the COVID issue doesn't cancel too many games, and they get that cleared up. But Hank, thank you much. I appreciate it, and stay well, stay healthy, and we'll talk again next week.
Okay, you too, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you, Hank. Bye-bye. Everybody go to jimfeist.com and get some great information, winning picks, and we'll talk to you soon.
O'Reilly.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
As a roofer, you need accurate roof measurements and you need them fast. GAF Quick Measure gives you single-family residence roof measurements in less than an hour. Learn more and order your first report today at gaf.com/quickmeasure.